Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. My name is Kevin Murcko. I'm the CEO here at Coinmetro. This is called an AMA. You ask, I answer. It literally stands for Ask Me Anything. Most people, some people, usually do. So here we go. Just going to kick it off. Gold medal going to Rush Music this month. Let's see. Rush has two questions. So I'm going to read through both questions. Or it might be the same question, but I'm going to read through and then we're going to answer it. Let's see. I thought the Trump administration was supposed to be pro-crypto. I didn't realize that meant making a literal pump and dump shitcoin and allowing Binance to get away with everything. Does that not make crypto look like one giant scam to everyone now? The U.S. president making a shitcoin and SEC holding out on Binance. Hey, Rush. So this is a complicated one. I'll start off by saying I'm pro-free market. It kind of sucks when free market comes after somebody breaks a ton of rules. But I think the Trump administration is very much pro-crypto. However, markets don't like uncertainty. And while Trump promised a lot of things, I think a lot of pundits and a lot of people assumed that he wasn't going to come through on a lot of those things, at least not necessarily as quickly as he's trying to. And all the changes and all the executive orders and all the kind of friction that's being created in Washington creates uncertainty. And that uncertainty spells, well, volatility for markets. What you can see, though, is lots and lots of pro-crypto actions taken, even from the executive order standpoint. Now, that might not be a law, and it might take some time for those things to actually come around and become law. But changes at the SEC, changes at the CTFC, changes at the Comptroller's office, changes pretty much everywhere with almost all pro-crypto candidates is big news. So I think what we need to do is just be a little bit patient here. Bitcoin is still hovering around above previous all-time highs. It's in a range of previous all-time highs to the most recent all-time highs. And while crypto isn't Bitcoin and Bitcoin isn't crypto, those two are starting to separate. It shows that there definitely is institutional interest in Bitcoin. And that institutional interest, if we continue to push and if they continue to push pro-crypto legislation, will spill over into the broader crypto markets. I'm going to jump back on this one a few times throughout the day today, I think, because there's probably going to be more questions about it, but I don't want to take up too much time because I could go on and on about that one. But I would say, yes, they are pro-crypto, but like most cases in the market, what normally happens is you're going to get the exact opposite reaction you would expect initially. And you can go back to COVID to see what happened with COVID. You can go to the housing bubble. You always get, okay, this is probably going to be negative for markets, or this is definitely negative for markets, and markets go up. But over time, that kind of buy the news or sell the news, buy the fact, buy the news, sell the fact effect weakens. So sorry, next question. What are the most excited about Coinmetro currently? So, I don't want to give the same answer that I give a lot of the time here, but I do see, so we've made a lot of changes over the years, definitely, but definitely recently as well. We've made a lot of changes into how processes and procedures work in Coinmetro. And I'm going to come with this product update shortly here. And it's probably the biggest in terms of reach product update that we've done in some time. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And the reason for that is because a lot of the reason for that is because of those changes in procedures, as well as just growing the team. But in terms of excitement, we have some things growing in the background. I'll say it's biz dev related, to not spill the beans yet. But it's potentially quite large, and it's weeks and weeks in the making. LOI was signed, or MOU, I think it was an LOI, pretty much the same thing. However, still a lot of work to be done. We expected to be able to talk about it by the end of this month. I think we're probably going to be able to talk about it next AMA or sometime during the mid to end of April. But it could be game changing for not only us, but others in the market as well. And so that right now, I think is where my focus is, also with general fundraising, et cetera. But there's a lot of things that are about to come into play for Coinmetro that we've been working on for a million years, partially because we lost providers, partially because of changing rules, etc. We just haven't been able to roll these things out, and we're finally going to get there. But I'm gonna come back on that here shortly. Hopium's coming. Hopium's coming. Rush sucks. The question was a good question. Come on. THT is breaking my heart. Yeah, well, THT is still the same product it always was. I know they have a lot more. They've been more active on Twitter, more active on X. I think they need to do a bit more in order for people to understand what they're doing, because they are doing a lot of cool things. We'll see if this go around is kind of THT's go around. I did mention end of last year that this could be the last 4-year cycle, but we may have already been changing what those cycles look like. I think we still may be in that final 4-year cycle. We did see kind of I would say, mini bull market. I think we're still in a bull market. I think we're in a low right now. Generally the low Q2, Q3. So, okay. We did see some thematic baskets emerge, whether that be AI agents, etc., and meme coins for a bit there that sucked up a lot of liquidity. But I do think we're going to see much more focus on not just themes, but the broader market as we kind of pull away from some of the things that are happening in the world right now. There's actually a lot of telltale signs right now that we're already pulling away. So the U.S. has, I don't remember if it was 7 or 9 trillion. Well, this has nothing to do with THG, by the way. So let me take this off the map here. But the U.S. has about 7 or 9 trillion worth of debt that needs to be refinanced. Now, Trump administration had 2 choices. They could either kick the can down the road and try to deal with it later. However, then probably the Trump administration would be blamed by the general public for this debt. Doing it now essentially means he can blame the Biden administration, or any previous administration for that matter. Of course, he also had a previous administration, so that might get tricky. But it's a lot of debt to refinance, and in order to refinance that debt, and do it in a way where he can call it a win, it's about getting rates lower. And I think we've seen actions at the Fed. We've seen actions with, let's say, institutional money going in from January into February, et cetera. We've seen different things happening in the background that shows that institutional money was pulled. There was some money heavy on shorts. Those shorts are starting to wind down. We're starting to see some, let's say, different talk out of the Fed, with a potentiality for a rate cut coming soon. Anyway, the kind of dominoes are aligning. And that's the wrong analogy, because I don't think it's more like dominoes. I think we are about to see a lot of liquidity and some burr goes the printer out of the U.S. government. Now, that's probably going to start to kick off end of Q2 into Q3, but that'll lead us into that Q4, Q1 that we've been talking about here for quite some time, mega bullish. And I think that's going to be a broader crypto bullish market, at Bitcoin as well. But I think you're going to see that spill over outside of just themes. Hey, Piotr, how are you? Nice to see you here, man. Glad you could join. Yeah, so let's see if there's some sleuths out there and can figure it out. There's hints, that's for sure. BizDev, yeah, lots of going on in the BizDev poll, but I can't talk about it right now. We have an NDA in place. But we do have an LOI signed. Shareholders will learn about it probably mid-April, and hopefully everybody else by the end of April. All right, yeah. All right, just because Charlie asked for it, let's jump into this bad boy. So before we get into the product update, I'm going to just give you a quick, broad update on marketing in general, because that's probably on a lot of people's minds as well. So I had talked about cost of acquisition the last time we were here, and how we were seeing some of the best cost of acquisition we'd ever seen. I think, into the single digits at some point, with our average coming down quickly and swiftly. Back in the day, we would pay $30-35 US for a new KYC client. Well, we're now seeing numbers of around 12 euros per KYC client. We have some few announcements that are coming that are going to make us increase our budgets, etc. We're going to see how the market reacts to both us spending more money on marketing, but also some additional stuff, which is going to come in the product update. So you'll learn about that in a second. We have we're calling it the gift frenzy. It's a campaign that's going to involve you guys, the community, big time. We're going to ask you about it and get your opinion about it before it launches. But it's coming, I think, in the next 2 weeks. So it's a community-based campaign. It's going to allow us to burn a lot of XCM, hopefully. So that'll be really cool. I've seen little bits and pieces, and so far what I've seen, I think is really innovative and something that I haven't seen other exchanges or other platforms do. So I think you guys are going to like it, but we're going to get your feedback on it. SEO on our side keeps breaking records as well. So breaking our own records almost on a weekly basis in terms of SEO, finally starting to catch up, new website, etc., new articles, all that stuff, finally starting to show its merit. And then also, I have a joint AMA coming up, a little fireside chat with our next listing. And now I'm gonna let you guys know what the listing is, because we want to start creating a bit of hype. We think it's a really good project. We've been working on a listing for a while now, and had to delay it a few times, but now expect it to happen in the short term, and that's Telestai. So if you don't know about Telestai, I think other people have mentioned it inside of our community. Take a look at it. It's a cool project. Listings coming. Also, joint MA coming. So let's jump into product updates. Right, here we go. Now this used to be back in the day. Oliver used to do the product update. We haven't done that in a while. So here we go. So number one on my list, which is probably one of the most important, if not the most important. And I guess some people are going to say this isn't a product. I'm getting ready for that. So I'm getting ready to answer that question. I know it's going to come, but here we go. So credit card deposits might not seem like the biggest thing in the world. However, new credit card deposits for USD, that's a big one. Euro, pounds, and Australian dollars, all in native currencies, coming next week. This removes all current restrictions when it comes to US dollars, a few different countries in Europe that we weren't able to support, as well as pounds and Australian dollars natively, not having to jump through hoops, and no commission charges for our higher level users, but also very competitive fees on the other side. This means that we very shortly going to be re-entering the UK market. So there'll be another days or week or slightly more of us kind of not onboarding UK users. That'll change, and we will have pounds ready, not only by faster payments, but also credit cards and debit cards. And we are also gearing up for Canadian dollar as well. That will also mean AUD and Canadian dollar pairs against USDT, for example. So there'll be an on and off ramp solution. New partnerships. So we've enhanced our payment options, which is why we're able to roll out all these new credit card deposits. But it means that Apple and Google Pay are coming. So right after the new credit card deposits launch, both Apple and Google Pay will launch in succession. So within April and May, we will have both Apple and Google Pay. Now, again, this might be a bit status quo. However, especially when it comes to USD, we haven't been able to support native USD deposits. We had Swift for a bit, then the provider, lost their ability to provide US dollar Swift. This is going to allow us to provide Apple and Google Pay, just a few clicks on your phone, and people will be able to deposit USD. And depending on the level they're on, it won't cost them anything. And even if it does cost them something, it's going to be super competitive. This is also the first gateway for DCA, for dollars cost averaging, which is planned for May into June. So credit cards coming back online in a big way, especially for USD, and then new currencies like Australian dollar, so we can support them as well. And also being able to support Euro in different markets where we weren't able to support before. And then April and May, Apple and Google Pay. Right after that, DCA. So the next big thing is tech debt, right? Everybody's been talking about it. Well, I've been talking about tech debt. I try not to talk about tech debt, but I keep saying tech debt because, there's some tech debt. So we have new onboarded members of our tech team, which are now 2 to 3 months old. So we've started to implement Agile, which we used to use way back in the day, but most recently we've been implementing it once again. And that helps us improve planning and delivery and really kind of drive effectiveness. And I've definitely seen that over the past weeks. Testing environments. So in the past, we had a few different environments. We had let's say a demo environment that we had in the past, as well as our live environment, et cetera. We've been building out a sandbox environment. And we were on the last leg of getting that sandbox environment online. Now, that's important because, one, it allows us to then dig through a lot of the tech debt that still remains and try to clean it up in real time without obviously affecting users, and then porting those things over to our live environment. And so I believe the last kind of buttons and little bits and pieces were completed on that sandbox environment, and that is now live. New listings, I just talked about one. We have a batch, though, of new listings, a nice little handful, with the first one coming, which I already mentioned, and then several more to follow. We did previously have one dev that was going to focus on listings, and then, well, we had to refocus and move people around. But that's, again, going to be a focus, so you will start to see more and more listings coming from Coinmetro. Improved liquidity is another big thing. We're finalizing the setup for an aggregator. Basically, we've been using this aggregator for settlements on our side, but we've been integrating them completely in order to use them for aggregation of liquidity. And we are in the final stages of doing that. In early April, we should go fully operational. This is going to mean that the existing LPs we have will be essentially competing with one another to provide more liquidity and better pricing top of book, as well as more depth. We'll also be able to integrate one new liquidity provider and essentially two new liquidity providers. We also have some market makers coming on board, which will support altcoins that are currently not supported on the platform by any liquidity provider or market maker. And yeah, the first token that'll be market made once we get the market makers back online will be XCM. Literally fixing the last few issues today to onboard them to get them trading. Mobile app updates. So we've pinpointed multiple code vulnerabilities that were slowing down the app. So the cleanup's already begun. Next week, the first fix will go out, getting rid of about 5,000 lines of redundant code. And that's obviously just the beginning. There's a few probably months of work there, but we expect to see with Agile in the background every 2 weeks additional improvements and adjustments. Some infrastructure upgrades. So our backend node system has been upgraded and is in the process of even additional upgrades. So we won't see any more downtime on those ETH nodes. So if people remember, there was some time where withdrawals weren't possible. We weren't taking deposits. There were some delays in withdrawals going out, all because of node upgrades, which for the most part have been completed, but we will continue. We now have a different infrastructure, so we're able to move faster when there are updates, even if we're not notified from some specific providers. And that doesn't just include ETH, obviously. In fact, doesn't really even involve ETH. It involves other chains. We also have a monitoring system that's quite advanced that will be monitoring externally and resolve those changes automatically rather than having to put hands from devs into the equation. So that's the product update. I'm going to continue with questions. I hope you guys like what you heard. I will be answering questions, obviously, as we move here through the next 40 minutes or so. EncryptGen looking promising now that 23andMe went belly up. They secured a huge development partnership. Well, that's cool. Hopefully that comes to fruition and they're actually able to push some funds behind. I did see, well, I've heard about 23andMe and I've seen some details in Telegram about EncryptGen, but hopefully they can get back on track, get those bondholders satisfied, and also really start to push some investment capital back into their platform. Is VXV swap to VAX still scheduled for Q2? VAX, I don't know how you pronounce it, Paul. It is definitely still scheduled. You can tag Alec in Telegram to see if there's an update, if anything's changed. As far as I know, nothing's changed. Any news on funding? Hey, Carlos the Jackal. So yeah, we have one big, like I said, I'll call it biz dev for now, brewing in the background. And that involves funding as well as many other things. We have current shareholders that are looking as well to jump in on our current round, probably towards the end of April into May, and also have at least 2 different groups of new shareholders that I've been in touch with now for some time that also are looking to potentially invest with us. So I think in terms of fundraising, you know, the goal initially back at the end of last year was to finalize end of March. I think we're looking at end of May in order to kind of put the final touches on funding. And I will keep you guys updated. There's over 1 million new cryptos out of the market in the last month. If or when there's an alt season, how would you expect it to be affected? You sure that's in the last month? Because definitely when Pump Fun was, well, pumping out a lot of fun or misery, I don't know, depends how you look at it, but there were definitely millions of tokens being minted. That's definitely slowed down. Pump Fun minting has gone down nearly to zero. And I think they were responsible for most, or a vast majority of new tokens. But regardless, there's a lot of tokens. There's millions and millions and millions of tokens. Yes, you know, previously when Bitcoin would rise, you kind of one ship raised all boats. And obviously with millions of tokens, that's not going to happen. And when you have something like the Trump coin that came out, that you know, everybody knows Trump, and so people, newbies, etc., new money that would have flowed maybe to other projects ended up going to Trump coin, Melania coin, etc. And then, you know, most got burned. And that's not to say that that doesn't happen on almost every other token. I say this a lot, but I'm going to repeat it here because I think it's worth mentioning. When, you know, Bitcoin's at an all-time high and there's some news that say 100% of wallets are now in profit. No, they're not. Because most people buy at highs and sell at lows, literally. And so when you talk about the retail crowd, so that means that they may not have any Bitcoin left in that wallet. So, but they definitely lost money on it. And so trading in a volatile market is difficult, especially when you're trading and not hodling or holding. And that's why the hold strategy is by far the best for most individuals. You buy and sit and wait and build up your patience over time. So yes, it definitely will affect. It will affect in a way that, hopefully in a good way, eventually. Whether it affects in this way right now will remain to be seen. But it'll more than likely affect in the way that, because not everything's going to get funding, basically. Not every token, every coin is going to see runoff because there's too many. Hopefully the market starts to mature based on that. And instead of funds going into everything, they go into things that are actually doing something, building a business, making money, making revenue, etc. Now, obviously, meme coins, that's not what happened there, right? Meme coins were a name grab and an attention grab. It was a hype-driven market, just like crypto really has been ever since its inception. Even Bitcoin is still very much hype-driven. Yes, there's fundamentals now behind Bitcoin, et cetera, but there's still hype. Having said that, I do think that there is a chance that meme coins can kind of do good. I think NFTs could do good. I don't know why we haven't seen other types of non-fungibles being traded that aren't, you know, mutant apes. However, this market has shown ICOs can do well. All these bubbles that we've seen could potentially become something that could be long-lasting and stable. We just haven't seen the money flow and invest in that, because money flows to the next hype and the next bubble. And at some point that's going to change. Under the Trump administration, I don't know if it's going to change, because if you allow kind of the almost free market, then the money will flow, or people will put money behind to create things that allow them to make money the easiest. And that's not going to be driven by, you know, good fundamentals. It's going to be driven by hype. So I have to see. It definitely affects. Hopefully in the long run, it's a good effect. In this particular market, it's going to be difficult for new tokens that don't get hype, that don't have a user base, and that aren't, you know, tokenomics aren't tied to something sustainable, I think, to get the type of liquidity that they could have gotten in the past. Price prediction for KDA, that's a difficult one, to be honest. And I think this cycle is a bit difficult to define. I still think KDA has many fundamentals that any token coin needs in order to do well and gain value and show true value. I haven't seen much from Kadena. I'm not saying they haven't done much. What I'm saying is I haven't seen it. I haven't delved in. I haven't really been paying attention too much to KDA over the last few months. I know they made some changes last year that I thought were warranted and needed. And I think now it's really about, I've said it a million times, layer ones need to find their niche, and they need to exploit that niche. They need to find where they're really good at, what type of problems they can really solve well, and find industries that can benefit from it and focus there. I think if KDA does that, if Kadena does that, they can separate themselves from the crowd relatively easily, gain users, gain, locked value, and that'll help them, reach a higher price point than they are currently. Hey, Duncan. Yeah, man, we're all tired. I think we're probably going to have to wait till into Q3, into Q4 to really start to see the engines turn on. The key for that is money printer go burr sometime before the end of April. And I think you're going to see that. That happens, then, engines are going to start to warm up. Hi, from 2024. May I'm not receiving referral system benefits. When will it be fixed? Hey, Andres. So I know that we're aware of this. I would say make sure you contact support, make sure a ticket's been opened. That can get it into our maintenance board, and that can make sure that it gets prioritized as it should. When Coinmetro U.S. headquarters? Well, let's see how this administration rolls with the current focus on potential, regulation or deregulation. There's been a lot of deregulation for banks. There has been, as of yet, little focus on exchange regulation. We need to see where that leads before we end up opening, a headquarters in the U.S. But I can guarantee you, if exchange regulation is a focus, there'll be a lot of businesses that are currently in Dubai. There'll be a lot of businesses that are currently in, places like Lab One and other kind of offshore jurisdictions that will end up in the U.S. And, I think that's the focus of the administration, not necessarily crypto, but just bringing business back to the U.S. Piotr, yes. I think I mentioned automated testing as well. So, which is a great step. Do you know yet which parts of the tech spider were responsible for the problems with price display not matching the book? Good question. Bit into the weeds, I think, for me right now, but I know that we're aware of the problem. I also know that I got an update just the other day that all the high priority maintenance board issues were resolved. And so either means that this could have already been resolved, depending on what prioritization it has, or it could be up in the next batch, so to speak, considering that all the higher priority tickets were resolved. So I think we do understand, generally speaking, where the issue comes from. It's just, finding the solution, I think. But I think we understand the origin. Edit Eds. Hey, Edit Eds. So this is onboarding. There's potential offboarding as well via debit and credit cards. That's something I just talked to our CRO about yesterday. We are currently in talks with a bank in Texas, as well as several providers for ACH, which would include withdrawals, and also continue pushing on the provider we had for SWIFT that is also trying to get USD back online, at least for SWIFT. So right after we complete the credit card integration and then into when we're doing Apple Google Pay, the focus for that specific kind of project manager will be on off-ramp. So it's being researched right now, pushed on different fronts, and it'll come to the forefront in terms of the project in general once we get Apple Google Pay, once we're in the midst of getting Apple and Google Pay rolled out. Any Dubai updates, any news regarding US? So I just mentioned the US office. So for Dubai, right now, we are focused on both the UK and Dubai in terms of licensing, MiCA as well in the background, and DORA in the EU. So probably Dubai updates in June, I think, June, July. Was the small product update the major product update as communicated on the Coinmetro update channel? That was the update. So I think the major piece of that, there's a lot of behind the scenes there that had to change for all that stuff to be rolled out. But I think the major one is getting, USD back online, having our relatively large, in comparison to the rest of our client base, USD client base, have a way to deposit funds nice, quick, and easy from their US bank accounts. I think that's the major one. That alone could be, a 50 to 100% increase in volume without us, having to spend money on new client acquisition. Hey, Richard. Kevin, when governance for XCM holder arriveth? Hey, Casper. So that has been put on hold currently, just as we kind of navigate through the fundraising process, as well as this quote unquote biz dev that's happening in the background. Based on what happens there, it'll either come back into focus or it may not. So ask me next month and we'll see where we are. Shout out to Cam, Michael, and Rafa and the support team. Amazing team. Thank Mohammed. Yeah, they definitely are an amazing team, as well as everybody else. I really believe Mars 2.0 will be a game changer when it's ready. So Mars 2.0 is going to be end of this year, sometime Q3, Q4. I saw it on an internal roadmap. I think it was Q3. I could be wrong, but it's definitely towards the end of the year. Hey, Casper, I think any moment. I mean, DCA, man, you got to DCA into what you like. Honestly speaking, even with, look, anybody that's been here a while knows that Coinmetro has had some speed bumps. That's for sure. You know, we've had our ups and downs, and our business in general, our UI, our UX, our mobile app, our liquidity, everything has made marketable improvements and is still being improved and will continue to be improved. I don't think XCM shows the true value of the business, right? If you look at our volumes, I know people still complain about volumes and liquidity, but 2 years ago, we were doing sub 1 million a day. 3-4 years ago, it was hundreds of thousands a day on average. And now it's upper single digit into double digit millions every day. And that's a marketable improvement. Also, most of that volume is happening on spot. And as new clients come in, we see spikes in our swap widget. And, you know, with additional listings and more staking programs coming, XCM is not going to get less involved in the Coinmetro ecosystem. So I think it's underpriced, to be honest. What impact do you anticipate with enabling US, Canadian, Australian markets with those new deposit methods? Well, as I said, with our current user base, if we go back to, say, last bull run, to see active users, we had 40% of our active users or so were from the US. If we had Canada and Australia, that might approach 45, maybe even higher percent of our active users. Now, while some of those guys, may have walked away from crypto, they may have gone somewhere else, they may, there's definitely a percentage of those that may not reactivate immediately. I have to imagine that 20% of those users will probably reactivate, or sorry, 50% of those users. So about 20% of our overall client base could potentially be reactivated. And that should be really good for volumes, with DCA following after that. And DCA basically being a product built not only on, obviously, Apple Pay, Google Pay, but also built on Swap or our Buy Crypto flow. It's a great convenience to the end user, and it's a great income earner for us. So I think, broadly speaking, by the end of the summer, without us adding in an additional new client, it could mean somewhere between 40 and 50% increase in revenues, and that's big. Hey, Paul, you just got to spread the word, man. And there's Alec telling you where we're streaming it, but yeah, you just got to spread the word. I love doing AMAs. I like doing them weekly back in the day, but I guess they don't permit me to do that anymore because I might say something stupid if I'm in front of the camera too long. Would you say this cycle can bring a solid run for DeFi classics like Comp? Well, we did see that little push for kind of the classics, with XRP getting a lot of the liquidity, but also things like Cardano, and of course they all got mentioned as a potential stockpile asset, which didn't probably slow down some of the liquidity flowing. I think what that shows is you're starting to see OGs, right? The OG crypto guys who, yes, they probably own Bitcoin, but they own crypto as well. When they took some profits, as we would have seen in the past, they threw that into some of the old haunts. I'm not sure that's going to continue to repeat itself. I do think that as this market matures, projects, businesses need to do something to see liquidity. They need to do something. And they need to, fill out the roadmap, and need to hit things on the roadmap. They need to break into new markets. They need to bring on new client bases. They need to be agile with what they do and how they run their business, and also the business that they're in. Crypto is an agile market, meaning you need to be just as agile to maintain your business, right? You need to maintain relevance, and to do that, you need to be agile. So I do think this cycle I think this cycle is going to surprise people. I think it's going to surprise people because, generally speaking, we are seeing a mimic of 4-year cycles, even though the timing isn't identical. Normally, right around now, end of March, we would see a lull. I don't know if we're going to see that lull. April's going to be April, along with money printer go burr, and what the Fed's going to be doing, as well as what the reaction and how the U.S. kind of handles the debt load, etc., is going to show a lot. I honestly believe we're already a few steps into money printer go burr. If we start to see that, we start to see more comments out of the Fed that's going to happen. And I think by the end of April into May, we may actually not see a lull, so to speak. But that still means for me that Q3 into Q4 and into Q1 next year, especially Q4 into Q1, are going to be a very stereotypical, in the sense of, you go to sleep one night, wake up the next morning, your portfolio's up 100%. Then you go to sleep again, it's down 20, then it's up 140, crazy numbers. And I'm not sure it's going to be all that thematic. There will be themes, and there'll probably be mimics of the themes we saw earlier in the market, whether that be AI, maybe even meme coins, but I think less on the meme side in terms of capital flows. And we may see a revival of, like I said, the old goodies. We may see that. DeFi, I think DeFi there's some good news for DeFi in that, well, if it is a free market, then all those concerns about DeFi being potentially more regulated, et cetera, kind of go out the window. At the same time, though, it creates a lot of uncertainty because, right now, the SEC threw out all the cases, right? Does that mean they're not going to bring new cases? Does that mean that in 2 years, if the House or the Senate flip, that there won't be changes again? Does that mean in 4 years, when a new president comes in, they're not just going to come in and go super harsh onto crypto, especially if crypto's allowed to do whatever it wants and, a bunch of people get rugged over and over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing happens. And so that leads to uncertainty, and that leads to more risk. So I think longer term vision, people are like, well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe the next 2 to 4 years is going to be this golden age, so to speak, of free markets, people doing whatever they want, and the good projects are growing, but alongside nonsense as well. I honestly believe that this kind of we're not going to do anything isn't going to last that long. I think towards the end of the year into next year, the Trump administration will start to lock down things. I do expect them to do it in a more hands-off approach than the previous administration. So which will still be kind of pro-crypto in general. But I think for DeFi to have its day again, there needs to be rules, but there needs to be rules that allow for growth. They need to be a little bit more hands-off. But having no rules, I think long-term scares people. Do you know if more deposit versus ACH and debit versus credit cards? Well, in the past, during, let's say, last bull run, I believe overall debit and credit cards were higher than ACH, though there were some larger accounts that did a lot of transactions via ACH. But I think overall debit and credit cards were higher. That's why we focused there. I say we focus there, but we focus there meaning that, one, we were trying in the background to get ACH for a long time now, but we pivoted a bit of that attention over to credit cards, looking at the numbers from the previous bull run. How can we get Coinmetro on F1 team? Well, let's get someone to sponsor it and put up the funds, and then we can send over a logo. Well, with the marketing showing some positive results, lower cost of acquisition, volume increase, will the budget be increased? Yes. Budget will be increased on the back of us rolling out debit and credit cards, because that'll allow us then to refocus again on bigger markets like the US, where we weren't focusing on the current campaign because of the lack of onboarding, or on-ramping, I should say. How do you think tokenized real estate will fare? Just a hype or something that could have a real future? Well, the reality with the tokenization of things. Now, you can go back probably one of the first AMAs, and I talk about tokenization. Tokenization will be a thing. Things will be tokenized. It's a great idea. But tokenization doesn't remove barriers that regulation put in place. It doesn't remove friction. It doesn't make things easier per se. It makes certain things after the fact easier, like distribution of value, profits, dividends, etc. Makes that easier, more traceable, more accountability. But when it comes to tokenizing a property, you still need to be able, that property still needs to be owned by some entity in a registry somewhere. That's probably going to be some type of company that then the company tokenizes its shares. And there's still a few layers of maybe not counterparty risk. In some cases, there very well may be counterparty risk. But it involves layers, it involves risk, and it doesn't make it easier. What it really does is give you a lower cost of capital. And that's why everybody's going after tokenized real estate. One, because there's hype there, and crypto's driven by hype, and retail investors are driven by hype, and so hype is one thing. But cost of capital is the real deal here. You can get capital for much cheaper than you can via traditional means, but there's less liquidity. So the chicken and egg thing here is get a lot of liquidity available and keep the cost of capital low. But to really make a change in how real estate investing is done, there needs to be less friction on the regulatory side. And there's really nobody yet putting a lot of focus there. That's where the focus needs to be next. Will you share your portfolio with us for inspiration? Hey, Casper. My portfolio right now hasn't really changed, to be honest. Like new things in my portfolio, on the recent kind of lows, I picked up a bit of ETH and a bit of Solana, just really recently. And I haven't, really delved into the meme coin stuff. Been on the sidelines for that. Still own, a lot of the gems on Coinmetro. And as new ones come on, I generally pick up a small bag and sometimes, add to that bag over time. So that's what my portfolio generally looks like. How much tech debt? I still think there's months throughout the year 2025. We're going to be working on tech debt. I think the most important part of that is that we want to get through the tech debt that affects you guys, the users, the most within the next 3-4 months. And I think a lot of it, you're going to start to feel it over the next 2 to 6 weeks. As we start to roll out small updates, those small updates will snowball. There's also an expectation that as we roll out smaller updates, we'll be able to find things we couldn't find before as we dig into the code base. We also have one of our previous heads of tech back on the payroll consulting and has been able to actually help us clean up a lot of old maintenance stuff that was on our maintenance board that we couldn't. They were easy fixes, but we were unable to find the source. And so things are moving fast in that general direction. I'm not a fan of Pi. That's my opinion. Yeah, there we go. Peter coming in. So Pietro is our delivery manager, and I guess essentially our head of tech. So he's the man to ask. So I own both. Price action on both of those isn't really what I'd like right now. I think Little AI has an active business. They're building their business out. THT has an active business. They're building out AI agents. They have patents. They're working with some really big organizations in behind the scenes. So I'm a holder. I'm a hodler. Still holding. Good point. Let's see if Pietro comes back to you. I've been an XCM holder since 22, but I'm curious what percentage of total XCM do you hold? Me? So I hold, I guess somewhere about 3%, 3 to 4%, something like that. And yes, I will keep holding. So I've sold XCM over the last years, but you usually once, twice, maybe a year as OTC deals to larger XCM holders, mainly because I don't get a salary, or I have a salary, but my salary doesn't cover my kind of base expenses. And so that's the way that I'm able to, kind of keep working. How difficult of a process would it be for CM to offer clients access to U.S. stocks, ETFs, and option trading? Well, we would need licensing to do that in the U.S. basically from the CFTC. That would mean 25 million net capital, I believe. So that would be the biggest hurdle. Getting the license itself would not be all that difficult, but it would be the capital. That would be the hurdle currently. Well, as soon as it hits €1, man, I mean, even at 99 cents, I might my trigger finger might pull, I don't know if I'd be able to wait. I mean, 98 cents, maybe even 96, actually 97 cents, I think is probably good enough. And we could have like a countdown clock like Bitcoin did for 100K. I think it would be interesting. Where? Sorry. I was going to say that was a dumb question. When? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I guess we would leave it up to the community to decide, or we could have multiple at the same time, like and webcam in. Dubai might be a good option. Estonia could be an option. That's where it all started. Well, actually, it all started in Mexico. Maybe Mexico would be a great option. I don't know. I think we put it up for a vote, to be honest. Thanks for the session. Inspiring. Apart from Coinmetro CM, how do you spend time? What are you passionate about? Would you like to hang out? Hey, Casper. So I may actually be in LA in April to meet with some investors. So if that's the case, I guess you probably have me on Telegram. So shoot me over a DM. We can definitely hang out for a bit. What am I passionate about? Well, family, I guess, is one thing I'm passionate about. I do like, I hate to travel, but I like going to new destinations. I just don't like the process, but I do like to travel. So travel, I guess, is on that list. I just started. So I used to be quite, kind of this athletic back in the day, but not recently, man. And I just picked up kind of paddle ball, and I was playing pickleball with my daughter, but because it's just slower. But paddle and maybe a bit of tennis. I'm a basketball fan. Definitely a bit out of shape to be balling, but I can still shoot. So a little bit of sport is nice. I guess, passionate about kind of education. Financial education is like a passion of mine. And anytime I can, I donate a bit of my time to try and, pass some knowledge along. But thanks for being here. Thanks for asking the questions. It's great to have, ACT people in the community. And the community is probably one of my passions as well. I like interacting with the community, even when it's rough. So yeah, there you go. Pieter answering Bobby. So yeah, I mentioned that, 2025 we'll be working on tech debt. That's not to say things that are kind of broken in the background aren't going to be fixed at the end of 2025. No, it's just, there's a much broader project. There's I would say, maybe Pieter will correct me if I'm wrong, 3 months or so where we're going to be focused on pieces of tech debt that are very much affecting, let's say, our users. The rest, though, is about rebuilding things, rebuilding different modules, moving to different code bases. And that stuff's going to take more time, but won't necessarily be felt more by the end user. So yeah, Pieter can correct me if I'm wrong. So we're 48 minutes in. I think I got all the questions. I think. And sorry if I wasn't, I felt like this wasn't my best AMA. But my back is killing me, man, to be honest. And I'm sitting in this really hard chair that's just digging into my back. So it's been a rough AMA for me. But hopefully, I'll get a better chair next time. So correct. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Peter, for acknowledging that. I guess you mean debit card. Well, maybe you mean credit card. I don't know. Look, debit cards at the end of the day are a cost to a business. They don't make money. It just costs money. What it does, however, is a potential hook to get new clients and keep them, which obviously can make the company money. So we've been talking. I saw somebody post in which they call the official Coinmetro channel. No one else does, but they do. And they posted a screenshot of me saying that I had signed a contract for debit cards and work had already begun. That was probably from like 2021, man, or 2022. I don't know. I didn't check the dates, but yeah, we signed a contract. It's a company called Railser. Actually, it was called Railsbank at the time, changed to Railser. And then shortly after we finally signed the contract, after negotiating for I don't know how long, and them losing their provider, getting a new provider, they went out of business. And that's been the story of a lot of providers we've used. I could make a list of dozens and dozens of banks, service providers, et cetera, that we've looked to use. And that's not just us. I mean, a lot of people have lost their providers over time. You know, and at the end of the day, so for us, I think it, you know, business sense overall, maybe. Business sense in the short term for Coinmetro, no, because it would cost us 150,000 to launch. We would lose probably 10 to 20K a month initially. I think in year 2 of launching a card, we may actually see direct revenue from the card. And probably within that end of that first year, into that second year, we would start to see maybe a change in retention, but our retention's already pretty good. But we'd probably see a change in retention and potentially revenue based on retention. And so I think the card makes sense, but I think the card makes sense when we're fully funded, stable, and profitable at this point. I don't know what the question is about margin trading. So Paul, you have to kick in there and give us a bit more information. Thanks to Monkey Biscuits. I appreciate that. Remember to hit the like button. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Like button, like button, like button. Awesome. Yeah, Ian and Shoba and Supit all great, amazing at what they do, and we're lucky to have them, and you're lucky to be able to deal with them every day because they're great at their job. So amazing. Is the debit card so expensive to the company that even high cost for the user would not make it profitable? Well, high cost of the user, I mean, anything could become profitable, right? I mean, if we pay $1 million for a card and we charge you $2 million, well, we could be profitable on it, but would you actually pay the fee? That's the point. You know, if there's other options out there that are cheaper, would you even use our option? What would we have to do to make it worthwhile? Would that mean providing perks that actually cost even more money in the short term? It's really about a short term versus long term vision. Long term, I think it's a winner, or could be a winner. Short term, it's a loser, I think, 100%, because to make it profitable, you know, first of all, we would pay more for the service than, say, someone that's already issued 100,000 cards or 200,000 cards. So we're paying more per card, per interaction, per transaction. We would have, in order for someone to pay more to us, unless they're just the most devoted Coinmetro user ever, we would have to provide perks that are better than the next guy. And to do that, we'd have to expend more money. So the cost would go even higher. And at some point, I think if the card cost was high enough, people simply just wouldn't use the card, but we'd still be paying minimum fees to a card issuer. And so again, I think the estimate would probably be, 150 to 250K a year 1 we would lose, plus a setup fee of another 150. So probably somewhere between 300 and 450,000 euros would be lost year 1. Year 2, I think it is possible that we could make money on the card. However, you know, it may take till year 3 to actually see profit from something like that. Well, we have margin trading, so I don't know how to answer the question now. Can we still get CM ale? We do have some in the office still. I don't know if we can ship alcohol. It probably requires some form of licensing, which we don't have, unfortunately. So you can go pick it up, though. You can schedule a visit and pick it up. It is. I would say, you know, jump into Telegram, because they're there, you know, anxiously waiting this as well, and you can get it right from the horse's mouth. But it's a cool project. I think they're working on things. Some of the things they're working on, I can't say that they're the only one, but they do have some uniqueness about them. So yeah, jump into Telegram, ask away. You can get it right from the horse's mouth. Yeah, it's quite massive, actually, the expense. Like I said, it's mostly used for a hook to open an account and or retain an account, but by no means is it a product on its own. You know, if you just offer a debit card, unless you're charging, you know, some absorbent like 5% fee, 10% fee to load the card or something, it's just not a profitable business in and of itself. If that was the case, a lot more providers would offer cards, right? But and then there's a reason why they don't. Coming up on 55 minutes. I think we might be. We're out of questions. I don't know if somebody's got to come with a question, or you're just going to be sitting looking at me, looking at another screen, unfortunately. So let's see. Where am I? You got to figure that one out, man. It should be. I've been here before. Let's put it that way. I've been here before. It might look a bit different, but I've definitely been here before. Oh, here we go. One more coming in. Dude. When better tax report straight out of coin? That's a good one. We were looking in the past to work with a third-party provider that would help us with this. We didn't move forward with that, at least as of yet. I would say, let us know what you need. Maybe give us a sample from somewhere else, which is formulated as you need it. It doesn't have to be a long sample. It could be 3 transactions to show what you need to show. And let's get that into Jira and let's see if we can generate something that would work for you, especially if it doesn't just work for you, but it's like, oh, this would work really well for, I don't know, Canada, Australia, US, etc. It might be a really easy fix. It could just be setting up mapping, right? Mapping an XLS download or a PDF. Hey, Paul, that's a good one. That's a good one for Peter, man. Peter should respond to this one. He's probably got the roadmap sitting right in front of him. I think he literally, how quarterbacks in American football, they have this thing on their arm or whatever, and so they can see all the plays. That's what Peter does with the roadmap. Just walks around with it, so you can look at it, 24/7 and be reminded. If you give away the ale to clients, you won't need a license. Even to ship it. Well, then I guess maybe we can do that. You can just pay shipping with XCM. How's that? Are XCM buybacks happening as market buys? Like, did the code change work? Are you tracking the buybacks? So it wasn't a code change. It was a parameter change in the code. So what we were doing before, we're still sending limit orders. So limit order, we used to go into the book essentially below or above, the current price by a certain buffer. And that's been changed to go below current price. So it basically immediately eats through the book. And that's exactly what they've been doing. So they are much more like a market order. I would say a controlled market order, if for lack of a better term. Okay. Well, yeah, if you can send us a sample, that might be step number 1 for us to be able to support exactly what you need. So, yeah. Anything else? We got like 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes left. Oh, Peter coming back. Okay, so there you go. So ready to pick up in another sprint. So hopefully we're going to get that bad boy fixed. I think with the help of our previous head of tech, who's kind of liaising with us right now as or supporting us, I should say, as outside help, probably is going to help us get this fixed relatively quickly, because I think it was built under his reign. Here we go. So I think, I would say, I'll do it this way. Layer 1's platform tokens. Why? Because if you find a platform, and that includes a layer 1, but a platform that solves a problem and that works. So Telestai could fall into this, right? They have a platform. They're trying to revolutionize an industry. They're trying to tokenize an industry that others have tried to tokenize, like Nostr, and in different ways. If they do it right and they get users and their tokenomics are tied into their business model, which they are, then that very well could be one of the next 100x. I would look at infrastructure. I would always look at, this hasn't changed since day 1 of crypto, infrastructure, which means layer 1, which means platform tokens. Look at their tokenomics, look at their business model. If you think the business can succeed and the token is well enough intertwined with that business model, that's going to be a winner. Well, I think they finally have their layer 1. They're able to do a lot more with data, with being able to do like if this then that type actions. I think with AI agents and things like that, that platform's eventually going to be able to not only have if this then that reaction, but they will be able to potentially even through like mempool data be able to action these things even before the data is kind of public on chain. I think reactive has a bright future. As I said before, even with Parsec, it's a long game, but it's about providing a service that is valuable to anyone interacting with blockchain data. Oof, Lou, I'm not ready for that today, man. My back's hurting. And 80s, I maybe could get 90s out right now. I don't know, but 80s is going to be difficult. I'd have to get like some Run DMC or Two Live Crew was more 90s and 80s. I started out in the late 80s, but yeah, I'll get ready for next AMA. We'll do something. We'll put something together. What's the way to send it? I have great Excel with macros. Get it over to support. Support will get it over to our finance department, who will then liaise with tech. I'm really eyeing Colville. Yeah. I could see a revival. Yeah, look, the mentality of most traders is exactly what it shouldn't be, and I've made this kind of comparison in the past, right? So if you go to a car dealership today and you see the car you want to buy and it's $50K and you're like, yeah, man, look, I'm coming here next week. I'm ready. I've been saving. I'm buying this thing cash. And then, I don't know, something happens when it comes to car prices because some tariff is announced, whatever. I don't know. Or reverse tariffs. Who knows? U.S. cars are going to sell for 70% cheaper outside the States. Whatever ridiculous reason. And you go back next Tuesday to pick your car up and it's not $50K anymore. It's $25. No buyer would go, you know what? I don't like this car anymore. You got anything for $50K? Because nah, I'm not paying $25 for this car. I mean, I would have paid $50. But that same thing when you apply it to investing. Colville. I really like Colville. And then Colville tanks. Why does it tank? Well, it could be something Colville did, or very well, it could just be the market in general. It's a less liquid asset. The market is going down. People are selling everything they have to get into the latest meme coin or whatever, because they think that might pop in a day rather than a year. And, the thing goes down. And then they're like, well, I really love this at, X, but X minus 99, no way. Now, of course, there's caveats to this rule. If the business goes bankrupt, if the business stops producing, if the business pivots into something that's entirely outside of their, wheelhouse and it's not moving, well, of course, then that price action might be justified. But in crypto, very, very, many, many times, the price action is just a result of the broader market. And while we'd all, nobody wants to see a correlating market when a market correlates to the downside. They all want to see it on the upside, though. But what's happening now is that we still see correlating markets to the downside. When there's volatility, if Trump 3 is announced, Trump token 2, and people are like, I got to get into that, it'll probably pop 1,000%. They'll sell everything else they have just to put it into the Trump coin. And then they lose most of it. Then they filter back into the things, but they're buying 50% on what they sold. So yeah, look, if you liked it at a higher price and they're still doing things and they're still, reaching their goals, it's a discount, man. Go for it. Do you believe President Trump will reduce or eliminate tax on cryptocurrencies based in the United States during his term? I do think he's probably going to eliminate crypto tax in general. Maybe have one of these, like if you hold for a year, there's no tax, no capital gains tax on crypto. Maybe he only applies it to U.S.-based crypto to try and incentivize companies to go establish in the U.S. I think all of that stuff's on the table, to be honest, 100%. Not going to answer that one. Not going to answer that, even though I'm in a padded room. Yeah, I don't. You don't never know who's listening. Anyway, we're an hour and 4 minutes in. My back is killing me, so I'm going to end it here. Thanks to Casper and everybody else for your great questions. Thanks for listening to the update. A lot more updates like that to come. Onwards and upwards, everybody. No matter what happens in the market, we're going to continue to keep working. We're going to continue pushing out stuff. We're going to continue to keep fixing issues and bringing out new stuff and bringing out new ways for you guys to interact with us and the broader crypto markets. And it's only going to get better. As simple as that. Thanks, everybody. I don't know if that was enough hopium for everybody. Hopefully it's not hopium, it's relium. A little bit of Relium for everybody. Positive Relium. I don't know if that's on the periodic table, but we should add it. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your Thursday. Have a great Friday. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for your continued support. See you guys here in a month, but see you guys on Telegram. Tag me at Kevin Murcko or tweet me at Kevin Murcko if you have a question I didn't answer. Cheers, everybody. And thanks, Peter, for helping me out and answering some of those questions. Cheers, everybody.